they can. Okay. So we are in this section of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna describes the qualities of a Sthita Prajna person. So Arjuna, the background of this discussion is based on 2.37. Okay. Sorry, 40, 48, 49, and 50. Okay. So in 2. In 2.53, when Krishna said, Shruti viprati yada stasyasi nischala samadau achala buddhis tadha yogam avapsyasi. So when Krishna said, let me share the screen also. So when Krishna said in this Sloka 2.53, when your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness. So basically Krishna here saying that when somebody is practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga, that is working without any attachment to the results of their action, they will not be disturbed by anything. They will not be disturbed by success or failure. They will not be disturbed by respect or humiliation. They will not be disturbed by the Karma Kanda sections of the Vedas, or they will not be motivated or attracted to the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, which are very attractive, that offer fruitive, material benefits. So upon hearing from Krishna that a person working in Nishkama Karma Yoga, his mind is fixed in self-realization, then Arjuna wanted to know what are the qualities of such a person. What are the qualities of a Sthita Prajna person? So then Arjuna asks those 4 questions. Sthita Prajnasya Kabasha Samadhistasya Keshava Sthitadhi Kim Prabhasheta Kimasita Rajeta Kim. So here Arjuna is asking Sthita Prajnasya Kabasha. What is the description of a Sthita Prajna person? And he asks some questions as follows. Sthitadi Kim Prabhasheta. That means how does he speak? Kim Asita. How does he sit? Vrajeta Kim. How does he walk? So how does he walk means how does he engage in the sense objects? Because the senses are very active and strong. So you cannot artificially just shut them off and say that you are a Sthita Prajna person. So the senses have to be engaged in sense objects. But how does a Sthita Prajna person engage the senses in sense objects? That is Vrajeta Kim. How does he walk? And Kim Asita means how does he sit? How does he restrain his senses? So when it is needed, a Sthita Prajna person will restrain his senses. Just like a tortoise withdraws all his limbs when the tortoise sees any danger from external objects. The tortoise withdraws all of his senses, including the head. Similarly, a Sthita Prajna person, when they see danger from external objects, when they see that the external objects are going to disturb their consciousness, then they withdraw their senses. They do not engage their senses in anything. They restrain from their senses. And Kim Prabhasheta, how does he speak? That means, how does he talk with people? The austerity of speech, basically. Okay? So we started discussing all of these are Krishna's answers to these questions, these three questions in 2.55, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Okay. So 2.55, 56, 57, 58, 59, Krishna has been explaining all these. So basically, if we were to summarize this section, the Sthita Prajna section, so first Krishna described how does a Sthita Prajna person engage his senses. Then Krishna described how does a Sthita Prajna person withdraw his senses. And Krishna also described how does a Sthita Prajna person, talk with people. And then in 2.59, Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehinaha Rasavarjam Rasopyasya Param Društva Nivartate. So in that shloka, Krishna mentioned that in order to get inspiration or motivation to have some sense control, one needs to have higher taste. So the best way to engage senses is to engage senses in the service of the Lord. Now, to shift our focus or to shift the focus of the senses from material sense gratification to spiritual service or the service of the Lord, we need some motivation. There has to be some phala shruti, right? There has to be some phala. Whenever you are asked to do something, the first question that we ask is, what's the benefit of doing this? So the motivation or the inspiration to do sense control is explained in 2.59, the higher taste. So when Krishna says in 2.59, when one experiences higher taste in serving the Lord, then it is very easy to control senses. Otherwise, it is almost impossible to control senses artificially. How many of us can go to Himalayas or some secluded place and not engage in sense gratification? As long as we are in the material world, in the society, we have to engage the senses because there are so many allurements, so many attractions around us. So looking at all these attractions, it's almost impossible for us to control senses. But it is possible to engage our senses in the service of the Lord. We don't have to go to any secluded place. We don't have to change our place. We don't have to go to Himalayas. So we can stay wherever we are. We can continue doing whatever we are doing. But engage our senses or practice engaging our senses in the service of the Lord by experiencing higher taste. Little by little, we have to experience higher taste. So if you look at the process of this Navavida Bhakti, right? The 9 stages of progress in devotional service. It starts with Atau Shraddha, then Bhajana Kriya, Sadhu Sangha, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava and Prema. These are the different stages in the progress of Bhakti. It all starts with Shraddha. And it's not complete Shraddha. It starts with Atau Shraddha. Atau means Swalpa. In Sanskrit, Atau means little, Swalpa. So the whole process of the progress in devotional service starts with little faith. Similarly, the higher to experience higher taste, first you have to experiment. You have to experiment with little faith, saying that, okay, if I do this, this will give me higher taste. This will give me higher happiness. This will help me fulfill my higher purpose in life. So far, I have been doing so many things in my life. I have been experimenting so many things in my life. But this time, let me experiment this bhakti and get some higher taste. So if we have that little faith, atav shraddha, then we can start experimenting. And once we experiment, obviously it will give you higher taste. Because the process is like this. It's like fire. Anybody who touches fire, knowingly or unknowingly, it will burn the fingers. Similarly, bhakti is so powerful that anybody with little faith or no faith or complete faith, if they practice bhakti, even a little endeavor on this path will give immense benefit. We discussed in 2.40 also, chapter 2, Sloka 40, Neha Vikramanashosti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpamapyasya dharmasya Trayate mahato bayat. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya. Swalpa means even a little endeavor on this path of bhakti will protect us from the most dangerous type of fear, that is death. Even a little practice. Like initially when somebody starts their journey in bhakti, they start coming to the temple once a month, and slowly they will increase the frequency to once a week, and then slowly they'll increase the frequency to twice a week or thrice a week. So like that, little by little, as they start getting higher taste, they increase their sadhana. And this process is such that it gives immense joy. The process itself is very joyful. Unlike other paths of spirituality, unlike other yogas like karma yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, and so on, this bhakti yoga process itself is very joyful. So what does bhakti yoga involve? So let's see some discussion, okay? Some active interaction. So what does bhakti yoga process involve? Shrikant, would like to share anything?
It's like smarana.
Yeah.
Always, like whenever, like try to remember God in all your duties, like activities, day-to-day activities.
Yeah.
Try as much as you can. So that's the starting point.
Yes.
And whatever you do, think that this is for the sake of pleasing God. So so that is another, next level. So
Yeah.
so these are the two things as per my understanding.
Yeah. So it starts with Shravanam, hearing. One must start hearing Krishna Katha. And as they hear Krishna Katha, they get some taste. They get satisfaction, basically. As they hear Krishna Katha, they get satisfaction. And that's what we are all looking for in this material world. Everybody is looking for satisfaction. People are getting happiness, but they are not satisfied. So to get satisfaction, we must hear Krishna Katha. That is the only thing that gives us satisfaction. So when we get satisfaction, that is nothing but higher taste. So it starts with Shravanam. Bhakti Yoga process starts with Shravanam. We can all experience this very well, right? Whenever you are in trouble, okay, whenever there is some difficulty, either at workplace or at home, or somebody says something, somebody speaks some bad words to you, somebody doesn't behave properly with us. Whenever we experience any of these situations, you go to your favorite YouTube channel where you can hear some Krishna Katha, and hear a lecture for half an hour or so. And you can see the results by yourself. You'll feel very peaceful, very satisfied. Without Krishna Katha, if there is a unpleasant situation, how would you react? Swati, would you like to say that? Without Krishna Katha, without hearing about Krishna, let's say we don't have any access to Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana, and let's say there is a unpleasant situation. Somebody insults us. So how would we react?
We would be agitated. We would be in the moment, in the sense that we would think that what that person is saying is true, and not respond in a more enlightened way. We would have behaved very basically, as maybe an animal would.
Yeah,
Very,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So very instinctive, very just trying to protect ourselves is what we would have done.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. And that's what is going to happen after 10,000 years. So this Krishna Katha will be available only for the next 10,000 years. That's what Prabhupada's prediction was. His movement will continue for 10,000 years. Not only his movement, but any type of dharma prachara, any type of Bhagavad Katha by any spiritual organization, it will be available only for the next 10,000 years. Now you can imagine, how fortunate we are to have access to this Krishna Katha. How fortunate we are to be alive in this time frame where Krishna Katha is still predominantly happening. It's available, in a wide range of scale. So after 10,000 years, because there will not be any Krishna Katha, Kali Yuga will degrade so badly. So that's the whole point of this higher taste in 2.59, what Krishna mentioned. We must experience higher taste. That will give us inspiration to control senses, or that will give us inspiration to engage our senses in serving the Lord. Otherwise, why would be motivated to go to temple? Why would be motivated to hear Krishna Katha? Why would be motivated to eat only prasadam? Why would be motivated to do some devotional service, practical service in the temple? Because we are getting higher taste in this. Now this is Saturday evening. All of us could have done something else. But in the last 1 year, we all experienced higher taste in this process. That's why Saturday evening, which is a prime time for enjoyment, entertainment. So we have sacrificed that prime time for enjoyment, entertainment, and we are here sitting and discussing Krishna Katha. Okay, so that's the higher taste. Now in the next section, 2.60 onwards, Krishna describes what happens if one does not control the senses. So first Krishna explained how does a Sthita Prajna person engage senses in the service of the Lord, and what's the motivation or inspiration to engage the senses in the service of the Lord, that is by getting higher taste. And now Krishna explains what will happen if we don't control our senses. So this is called the art of fall down. So we have several arts described in Bhagavad Gita, starting with art of tolerance in 2.14, matra sparshas tu kaunteya, and then art of working 2.47, 48, 49, 50. And then 2.54 onwards, art of sense control. Okay, sense control is the biggest thing. In any scripture, there is utmost importance given to sense control. Scriptures from all sampradayas, Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, Madhva Sampradaya, Kumara Sampradaya, all sampradayas, they give utmost importance to sense control. And it will be in the beginning of those scriptures actually. Even in Ramayana, sense control is given utmost importance. So that is art of sense control. And after that, now what we are going to discuss today is art of fall down. How a person would fall down if he does not learn to control senses. Now, when it comes to senses, how many senses do we have? How many senses are there?
There are 6 senses, Prabhuji, including mind.
Very good. So five knowledge acquiring senses, and then mind is the 6th one. So the biggest danger can happen by the mind. If we don't control the mind, then that will influence all the 5 senses, and we will see immediate fall down. So remember, we discussed the chariot of life in the last class. The chariot of life is the Bhagavad Gita picture that you see on the front cover of Bhagavad Gita, or in between, in the middle of Bhagavad Gita also there is a beautiful picture about it. So the chariot of life is the chariot itself represents the body, and the passenger Arjuna, who is sitting on the chariot, represents our soul, and Krishna, who is driving the chariot, is the intelligence, and the ropes or the reins of the horses represent the mind, and the horses represent 5 senses. Okay, so the intelligence should train the mind how to control the senses. Mind is like the ropes, right, that are controlling the five horses. So in the absence of intelligence, the mind will control the senses in a dangerous way. One horse will go this side, one horse will go the other side, one horse will go straight, one horse may decide to sit down. So the chariot or the body or the passenger in the chariot, the soul, they'll not be able to move forward. If different horses are behaving differently, the passenger will not be able to continue the journey. Similarly, the mind should be trained by the intelligence, and that intelligence comes from Krishna in the form of instructions in Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Now, in the later chapters, chapter 6, Krishna says about mind control. There is a big section on mind control. Okay. Krishna says a controlled mind is our best friend, and an uncontrolled mind is our worst enemy. Bandhuratmat manastasya enatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve varte taivatma shatruvat. Bandhuratmat manastasya. Bandhu means a relative, a friend. Okay? So who is a friend? Bandhur Atma. Atma means mind. Okay? The general definition of Atma is soul. But in the context of chapter 6, Atma Samyamya Yoga, the chapter itself is titled as Atma Samyamya Yoga actually. controlling the mind. So now you can imagine how much importance is given to sense control and especially mind control. There is a full chapter dedicated to this topic, chapter 6, Atma Samyamya Yoga, mind control. So, Bandhur Atmat Manastasya Enat Maivatmana Jitaha Anatmanastu Shatrutve Varte Taivatma Shatruvat. So, Krishna says a controlled mind is your best friend and uncontrolled mind is your worst enemy. The same mind that is within us. In fact, here, this is the brain and this is the mind. The mind is in the heart region. Okay? Many people do not know where the mind is. They think mind is in the same place where the brain is. But mind is in the heart region. Because that's where the soul is, right? So wherever the soul is, that's where the subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So it's a very, very important process. It's a very important thing to control mind. So now in this section, starting from 2.60 onwards, Krishna explains what happens if we don't control senses, especially mind. The art of fall down. Okay. So let's read 2.60. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Sloka number 60. So you can repeat after me. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan
Bhagavan
Vacha
Yatato Hyapi Kaunteya Purushasya Vipaschitaha
Yatatohapi Kaunteya
Puru
Ya Vipashita
Indriyani Pramadhini Haranti Prasabam Manaha
Indriyani
Indriyani
Parantini Haranti Prasavam
Mana
Mana
Yatata, while endeavoring, he certainly, now this is not high, okay? It's not that English high. It is he. Etato hi api kaunteya. He certainly, api, in spite of, kaunteya, O son of Kunti, purushasya, of a man, vipaschitaha, full of discriminating knowledge, indriyani, the senses, pramadhini, agitating, haranti, throw, prasabam, by force, mana, the mind. Translation. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Oh, we discussed this last week, right?
Yeah, I read through that last week,
Yeah, Praveen,
Prabhuji.
you only read through this, right? Yes, correct. 2.60, we discussed this. So basically, Krishna tells here that even for a person who is practicing bhakti, that is a sadhaka. Even for a sadhaka who is practicing bhakti, who has some knowledge of the spirituality and who has some intelligence to discriminate between good and bad, the do's and don'ts, who is trying to follow the rules and regulations, even for such a person, this process of sense control, especially mind control, is very difficult. And in the purport, Prabhupada explained with an example of Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra, who is such a exalted yogi, he was attracted to Menaka. And now what to speak of ordinary people like us. And that's on the negative side. And on the positive side, Prabhupada gave an example of Ambarish Maharaj. How Ambarish Maharaj controlled all of his senses by engaging in the service of the Lord. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane. So in that sloka, it is explained how Ambarish Maharaj, how he engaged his mind in the lotus feet of Krishna. Savai Mana. Mana means Krishna. Mind, Mana means mind. Krishna Padara Vindayor, at the lotus feet of Krishna. So Ambarish Maharaj always engaged his mind in the lotus feet of Krishna. And Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. Vachamsi means by his speech, with his tongue. Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. By describing or by speaking the glories of Vaikunta. So like that, we can engage all of our senses in the service of the Lord. Tani Sarvani Samyamya. I think we discussed this also. 2.61. Did we discuss this?
No, Prabhuji.
We did not discuss, right? Okay. Yeah, we can discuss this. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha.
Tani
Tani sarvani samyamya
samyamya
yukta matpara.
Vashehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratishtita.
Vasehi yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita.
One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So in the previous verse, 2.60, Krishna was telling about a sadhaka, a person who is practicing Krishna consciousness. How for such a person, for a sadhaka also, it is very difficult to control senses. Now in 2.61, Krishna is talking about a self-controlled person, Sthita Prajna person, one who has achieved this stage of Sthita Prajna. Okay, now somebody can read the purport. Swati, you want to read the purport?
Sure, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
That the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And useless, and unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaja Ambarisa, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah, you can skip the Sanskrit.
King Ambarisa fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord. His hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavors of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaf offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head is offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become the Mat Para devotee of the Lord. The word Mat Para is most significant in this connection. How one can become Mat Para is described in the life of Maharaja Ambarisa. Srila Bala Deva Vidya Bhushana, a great scholar and acharya in the line of Matpara, remarks, Mat Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvad. Prabhuji, can I?
Sarvendriya Vijaya Purvika Swatmadristi Sulabheti Bhavaha.
The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of the devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns all kinds of impurities. Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so called yogis who meditate on something uh, other than the Vishnu form simply waste their time in a vain search for after some fat, phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of the real yoga.
Yep. Okay. So here one beautiful point, right? Um, the senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. So it's such a beautiful point that, before this, Prabhupada makes a point that without being Krishna conscious, it is impossible to control senses. Okay? Now that doesn't mean only people who are in ISKCON can control senses. Okay? When Prabhupada says, without becoming Krishna conscious, it is difficult to control senses, means without becoming a devotee of the Lord. Without becoming a devotee of the Lord, it is impossible to control senses. Now, this is a beautiful point that Prabhupada mentioned in the later section of the purport, that devotional service gives us the strength to control senses. Now, when we are practicing this sense control, when we are trying to control our senses, what happens? The senses are pulling us into various sense objects to get material sense gratification. And now when we are trying to control the senses, you are trying to pull back. You are trying to pull the senses back. Senses are pulling us forward to engage in different sense gratification, and we are pulling the senses back. So there is always this friction. It's like tug of war. You're all familiar with tug of war, right? There are two groups of people on both sides of the rope, holding both sides of the rope, and one party pulls the rope to their side, and other party pulls the rope on the other side. So whichever party falls down, obviously that means the other party has won. Now senses are so strong, and they are like mad. They are compared to a mad elephant. Now with our strength, it's impossible to control the senses. It's impossible to pull the senses back. Senses are so strong, they are pulling us forward to engage in various sense gratificatory things. So Prabhupada mentioned that beautiful point in the purport that only devotional service gives us the strength to control senses. So it's such a beautiful point. So without this devotional service, now also look at that word devotional service. In general, you might have heard the word devotion, right? Bhakti or devotion. But it's only Prabhupada who introduced this word devotional service. Or he is defining bhakti as devotional service. So devotion means what? It's just a feeling, right? Okay, so you are devoted to the Lord. It's just a feeling. But devotional service means you are acting for the Lord. Love means to act. Love is a verb, it's not a noun. Love is not just a feeling. Love means action. You are ready to do something for the beloved. So Prabhupada has beautifully defined this process of bhakti as devotional service. So when we engage all our senses in performing devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Adasevanam, Atmanivedanam, Vandanam, Atmanivedanam, then only we can engage all our senses in devotional service. And that gives us strength to control senses in engaging in sense gratification. Okay? So now let's move forward with the next shloka. Yeah, very important section, important shloka and important.
Prabhuji, can you hear us?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
Like a fire senses for the materialistic or the feeling also have a some kind like from other person somewhere when talking, right? In that also
Your
senses
voice
work,
is
right?
your voice is little low. Praveen's voice is good, but your voice is little low.
Okay. Now you can hear me,
Yeah,
Prabhuji?
now it's
Yeah,
perfect.
thank you. Actually, when we talk about the senses, it is all related materialistic things, objects, or all the feelings is also there, Prabhuji. Like feelings means when we talk to somebody or that feelings also arises. That is also senses, right? That senses are working.
Yes. Yeah, the feeling arises in the mind, right?
Yeah, Prabhuji.
It arises in the heart and mind.
It's like not only for the benefit of materialistic, it other feelings also are there, right, Prabhuji? To in the relationship happens or some like outside we will go, in that also we will have a feeling, right?
Yes.
So not only materialistic objects, but for the feelings also, it's the senses are working, right, Prabhuji?
Of course.
See, feeling means it's the mind.
Okay.
When you are thinking about something,
Mm-hmm.
that means you are engaging your mind in that sense object.
Okay.
For example, a child feels like eating an ice cream. So which sense he is engaging there? He is engaging his mind thinking about the ice cream.
Daddy, you again.
So that means
You won.
the mind is engaging in sense gratification there. Or another time, you may engage your eyes in looking at some beautiful thing. Or you may engage your ear in hearing about your own glories. Or you may engage your tongue in tasting some nice palatable dishes. Yeah, when you engage all these six senses, that is called sense gratification, material sense gratification. Now we have to go away from that and do spiritual, devotional service.
Prabhuji, that feeling for the God, because right now the statue is standing, right?
Yeah.
Means like it will like a after purification that
Not
emotional
statue, deity.
deity, sorry, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So that emotional feeling when we have connected with the God will come when the purification will go, the slow process, that emotion will come towards the deity, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So the highest stage is bhava and then prema.
Okay.
Okay. So as we discussed a few minutes before, right? It starts with Atau Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Nishta, Asakti, Ruchi, Bhava, and then finally Prema. Prema means love for God. That's our goal. The goal of any religion or the perfection of any religion is to achieve love for God, Krishna Prema. Now, before that Prema happens, there are so many things that need to happen. Before Prema, Bhava. Bhava means feelings. One will have feelings for God all the time. That is Bhava stage, which is the very highest stage.
Yeah.
Now, we are not at that platform. We don't have feelings for God all the time.
Yeah.
We have feelings when we go to the temple, or we have feelings for God when we are reading Bhagavad Gita, when we are discussing Bhagavad Gita. We have feelings sometimes. But if one has feelings for God all the time, then that is Bhava stage. Okay?
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. And now before that feeling or Bhava stage, there are so many things, right? Asakti, Nishta, Bhajana Kriya, Sadhu Sangha, and Atau Shraddha. That means little faith. So you will start this whole journey of bhakti with little faith. Okay?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Okay, so now let's start discussing this important shloka today, 2.62. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा सङ्गस्तेषु उपजायते
ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसां
संगस्तो
सङ्गस्तो
सङ्गात् सञ्जायते कामा कामात् क्रोधो विजायते
सङ्गात् सञ्जायते
कामा कामात् क्रोधो
विजायते
विजायते.
ध्यायता while contemplating vishayan sense objects pumsa of a person sangha attachment teshu in the sense objects upajayate develops sangat from attachment sanjayate develops kama desire kamat from desire krodha anger abhijayate becomes manifest. Translation: while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. So now, this is the art of fall down. Krishna explains what happens if one does not control the senses, and especially mind. Okay, so purport. Who will read the purport? Yeah, Praveen, you can read the purport.
Okay, Prabhuji. Purport. One who is not Krishna consciousness is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagement, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to agree to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridasa Thakura was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to the Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material senses enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in the controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires.
His desires. Yeah. Yeah. So now this is a very important shloka. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodo vijayate. So where Krishna explains how a person would fall down. Now, what is this concept of falling down? Is it like falling down from fifth floor onto the ground? No, that is not the type of falling down we are talking about here. We are talking of the process of falling down from a higher stage to lower stage. So we are all trying to progress higher. We are in the lower stage now. Okay, at least we are so fortunate that we got this human birth. Now those species of life who do not have human birth, their stage is even further lower. And the people who are in the Patala Loka, their stage is the lowest. So our stage is much better compared to the people who are in Patala Loka, and our stage on the earthly planet is much better compared to the remaining 8.3999 so on million species of life. So there are 8.4 million species of life, and now we belong to one particular species. So we are far better than other species of life. So, but and again in this human life, we are practicing bhakti to progress higher to the higher destination. Some people may have a goal to go to heavenly planet. Some people may have a goal to go to Vaikuntha planet. Some people may have a goal to go to Goloka planet, Ayodhya planet, Dwaraka planet, and so on. But in this process, while we are being a sadhaka in this process, if we don't control senses, then we may fall down. We may fall down. Just like how Vishwamitra, he was meditating so severely, but he was attracted to Menaka. Simply by hearing the ankle bells of Menaka, he was attracted. So it's very important to control the senses, all the 5 senses, and include especially the mind. So now, if we don't control the senses, what happens? The process of falling down. So if you look at the shloka, right? Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha Sangasteshu upajayate. So dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. That means when we contemplate on sense objects. So dhyaya almost sounds like dhyana, right? That means contemplation. Dhyana means contemplation or meditating. When you meditate on sense objects, then sangasteshu upajayate. We develop attachment. So it's basically an 8-step process. The process of fall down is a 8-step process. The first step is contemplation. Means thinking. In simple words, thinking. Thinking about something. So you go to a shopping mall with an aim to buy, let's say, one shirt. Let's say you have a special business meeting and you need a good looking formal business shirt. So you go to a shopping mall with an aim to buy one shirt. But what happens? As you are walking on the floor, there are so many shops. There is Apple store, there is there is a sunglasses, Sun Hut store. There is some interior decorating store. There is some jewelry store. There are so many stores on the floor. As you are walking, your eyes are looking at all these objects. These are all sense objects, right? So when your eyes are looking at all these objects, and if you start thinking about them, that is contemplation. And when you come, even after coming back home, if you are still thinking about, oh, when I was walking on the floor in the Bellevue Square Mall, I saw this nice, cool looking sunglasses in that shop. So that is called contemplation. That means your mind is thinking about that object that you have seen in the shopping mall. There is no need to buy that object. Your goal was to buy a shirt, but while you are in the process of buying the shirt, you have seen 1,000 other objects and your mind started thinking about them. That is contemplation. So that means the process begins with which process? The process of falling down starts with contemplation. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. When your mind contemplates on the sense objects, what happens? Sangasteshu upajayate. Sangha means attachment. Upajayate means develops. Sangasteshu upajayate. Attachment develops. As your mind starts contemplating on sense objects, attachment develops. And then Sangha sanjayate kama. And then from strong desire comes the strong desire turns into lust. So first you are contemplating, then it becomes an attachment, and then you develop a strong desire to attain that object. And that is lust. And when lust increases, the lust increases when there is opposition to that. Kamat krodho bijayate. It causes anger. If the lust is not fulfilled, it causes anger. Because the mind starts thinking, oh, I want to get that object. Who can stop me from enjoyment? I must enjoy. Who can stop me from getting that object? I must get that. At any cost, I must get that. Now the example of sunglasses is a very small thing. There's no harm in contemplating on sunglasses or There's no harm in getting extra pair of sunglasses. But if we do not practice the sense control, and if we do not make it a habit to control our senses, then what happens? Today we are thinking about sunglasses. Tomorrow we'll think about bigger things. Just like how Ravana was thinking about Sita Devi. Ravana, he had everything. He had all the riches. He had so many wives, so many beautiful wives. Yet, he was still contemplating on Sita Devi. And then we all know the story, how he fell down completely. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. From anger comes delusion. Sammoha means delusion. Krodha is anger. Sammoha is delusion. Delusion means what? Confusion, basically. When one is confused about what to be done and what not to be done. And when we are confused in life, and we get confused all the time, when we are confused in life, we should refer to scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana, to understand what to do in such a situation. And then further, sammohat smriti vibramaha. When we are deluded, that means when we are in delusion, we naturally do not think about scriptures. Okay, when we are in a confused state, when we don't know what to do, what not to do, the best thing is to refer to the scriptures. But when we are deluded, we don't think about scriptures. We forget scriptures. So smriti here in this shloka, smriti vibramaha, sammoha smriti vibramaha. When we are deluded, we don't think about scriptures, we forget scripture. So smriti refers to our memory. Or smriti can also refer to smriti shastra. Like Bhagavad Gita is smriti shastra. And then smriti bramshat buddhi nasho. When smriti is lost, what happens? Buddhi nasha. Our intelligence will be lost. Because our intelligence is based on our memory, right? In the previous step, memory is lost. Smriti vibramaha. Now when the memory is lost, this faculty of intelligence cannot work properly, because intelligence is based on memory. To the extent we lose our memory, to that extent we lose our intelligence.
Prabhuji, one question.
Yeah.
Buddhi, and we will say Viveka also, right? So this means like those who doesn't have Vivek, they generally they will say, no. So Buddhi and Vivek both are same, Prabhuji?
Yes. Yeah, they are same.
They are same. Okay. Go.
So they are same. Yeah, they are same actually. There are two different words, synonyms.
Mm-hmm.
Viveka means what? To discriminate between good and bad. And buddhi means intelligence. Intelligence means the ability to discriminate good and bad, right and wrong.
Bad.
Yeah, they both are same. Buddhi and Viveka, they are same.
Okay, thanks, Prabhuji.
Smriti vibramaha, and then smriti bramshat buddhi nasho. So when smriti is lost, buddhi nasha. When memory is lost, intelligence is also lost. And buddhi nashat pranashyati. When we lose our intelligence, we fall to material consciousness from spiritual consciousness. Okay? So there are 8 steps. Okay, I'm not sharing, right? Okay, let me share so that I can highlight different sections of the shloka and different processes. Yeah, if you look at here, so dhyayato means contemplation. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha means contemplation. That is the first step. Next, sangasteshu upajayate. Sangha means attachment. One develops attachment. As one contemplates on sense objects, they develop attachment. Attachment and strong and a desire. Attachment leads to desire to get those objects. And as that contemplation increases, the attachment or the desire to get those objects becomes so strong, and it will turn into lust, kama. Sangat sanjayate kama. Sangat means attachment. Kama is lust. And kamat krodho bijayate. If lust is not fulfilled, then krodha, anger. And then in the next shloka, krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vibramaha, smriti bramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. Krodhat bhavati sammoha. From anger comes delusion. Sammoha is delusion. Sammohat smriti vibramaha. From delusion comes smriti vibramaha, loss of memory. And smriti bramshat buddhi nasho. From loss of memory comes loss of intelligence, buddhi nasho. And finally, buddhi nashat pranashyati. Okay? So let's recite this shloka also, 2.63. And then we can read the purport and have further discussion. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vibhramaha.
Krodhat bhavati
Krodhat bhavati
sammoha,
sammoha
sammohati smriti
sammohat smriti
vibhramaha.
vibhramaha.
Smriti bhramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati.
Smriti
Smriti
bramshat
brahmat
buddhi nasho buddhi
buddhinasho,
nashat
buddhinasho
pranashyati.
pranashyati.
Krodhat, from anger. Bhavati, takes place. Sammoha, perfect illusion. Sammohat, from illusion. Smriti, of memory. Vibhramaha, bewilderment. Smriti bramshat, after bewilderment of memory. Buddhi nasha, loss of intelligence. Buddhi nashat, and from loss of intelligence. Pranashyati, one falls down. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Okay? Purport. Okay, Jyoti, you want to read the purport?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has in its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an interpersonalist, the Lord of the absolute being impersonal cannot eat, whereas impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables. A devotee knows that Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as a material. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of the material existence. It is said that such a soul even though rising up to the point liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service.
Yeah. So here, Prabhupada talks about what is artificial renunciation and what is a proper renunciation. Artificial renunciation, as practiced by the impersonalists. Impersonalists means the so-called spiritual organizations, or the so-called transcendentalists, or the so-called spiritualists, who believe that God is impersonal. God does not have a personal form. They are called impersonalists, like Brahma Kumaris, or the Isha Yoga Foundation, Sadhguru people, even Art of Living people. So many spiritual organizations, they believe that God does not have a personal form. God is impersonal. Now, one important question that you can ask the impersonalists, that do you offer prayers? Obviously, they will answer yes, right? Now you can ask further question. When you offer prayers, does your God hear? Does your God hear your prayers? They'll say yes. Now, how can God hear your prayers without having ears? That means God must have ears, which implicitly implies that God has a form. God has a face, God has ears, eyes, nose, tongue, and so on. So this so-called philosophy of impersonalism is not very good. There is impersonal aspect of God, just like how sun has both personal aspect and impersonal aspect. If you look at the sun disk itself, that's the personal feature of sun. But the sun rays that are coming from the sun disk, those are impersonal aspects of the sun. Similarly, God, Bhagavan, has a personal feature or personal aspect, personal form, and then the effulgence that comes from his body, that is impersonal feature. So God has an impersonal feature or aspect, but it is wrong to say that God itself is impersonal. So now when they think that God is impersonal, now how can they engage their senses in serving different senses of the Lord? God is Atmaram. Now what is Atmaram? Atmaram means one who is self-satisfied. The word Atmaram, if you look at, it's a compound word, right? Atma, Arama. Arama means like bindas, satisfied, relaxed, or peaceful, happy, blissful. Atma Aram means you are satisfied within. So God is Atmaram. God does not need any external objects for his pleasure. He's self-satisfied. He's satisfied within. Whereas human beings in the conditioned state, in the material world, we need external objects to get some happiness. We need to engage our senses in external sense objects to get happiness. But we can also become Atmaram if we cultivate spiritual knowledge. If we cultivate spiritual knowledge and engage our senses in serving the Lord, we can also become Atmaram. Now remember the acronym for chapter 2. What's the acronym for chapter 2? Who can tell the acronym for chapter 2?
Gita. Gita.
Gita, very good. So what does GITA stand for?
G for Guru, I for
Guru.
identity,
Yeah.
T for tolerance.
Tolerance.
T for tolerance and also two duties.
Atmarama.
No. Yeah, A for Atmaram. So T for tolerance and also two duties. Remember we discussed Swadharma and Paradharma or Paradharma and Aparadharma.
Yeah.
So two duties. Okay. In the material world, we have one duty. And in the spiritual world, we have our eternal duty as a servant of Krishna. Okay. So the two duties. That is the alphabet T. And then last alphabet A for Atmaram. That means this whole section of Sthita Prajna, sense control, mind control, how to be happy within, how to be satisfied within, and not look for happiness in the sense objects. This whole section is about Atmarama. Okay, so here, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibramaha, smriti bramshat buddhinashat pranashyati.
Prabhuji, one quick question. I don't know.
Yeah.
Means if we are like self-satisfied, we will not feel hungry also, right? We'll have a hunger for the God, right? Hunger for God songs.
Yes.
That is the like we will not even feel like looking here and only looking at the God.
Yes.
We will be self-satisfied with the God saying, only listening. That is right, Prabhuji.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Not feel hungry also for that.
Yeah,
It's
we will
like
not even
this
feel
is
hungry. Yeah, all the
okay.
saintly people, the sannyasis, especially in the olden days, sannyasis, they, they they do not worry about their bodily needs. They do not worry about their clothes. They do not worry about their food. They do not worry about oh, where can I stay tonight. They keep traveling. They keep traveling and they live by begging. And one day they may not even get any food, and they're not disturbed by that.
Mm.
So if you are engaged in serving the Lord, if your mind is engaged in thinking about the God, if your hands and legs and everything is engaged in performing some practical service to the Lord, yeah, then you will not feel hunger.
Mm.
Rather, you will feel hunger for more devotional service.
Mm.
You will feel hunger for
More
more
devotion.
devotional service,
Mm.
because that is what gives you happiness.
Mm.
Atmaram.
Yeah. Thanks, Prabhuji.
So he is Atmaram, God is Atmaram, we are not Atmaram, but by looking at that Atmaram, we can also become Atmaram. When our eyes look at that person who is self-satisfied, we will also become self-satisfied. So right now we are dependent, our happiness is dependent on objects. if I buy a nice gadget that's in the market, then I'll get happiness. And tomorrow another new gadget comes into the market and your mind starts thinking about that object again. So unless you buy that new object, there's no happiness for you. You're not peaceful. And then there is always new objects keep coming into the market all the time. So if you are making your happiness dependent on external objects, then we will never get happiness. So we have to start seeking happiness within. Be happy within. Atmaram. And we can achieve this state of Atmaram only by cultivating spiritual knowledge. Because the spirit soul is there inside us. When we cultivate the spiritual knowledge, the soul within us will feel satisfied. The spiritual knowledge is the food for the soul. Just like the rice, wheat, and all these things, they are food for this body. The spiritual knowledge is the food for the soul. Now, when the soul is satisfied within, the body is also satisfied. Otherwise, all these disturbances will happen. Krodhat bhavati samoha, samoha smriti vibramaha, smriti bramshat buddhinashat pranashyati.
Prabhuji, to educate the mind means like we have to start preaching like bhakti towards, and the mind will always not towards that food side. It will like automatically our hunger will be towards devotional service only. We will not feel hungry also, right, Prabhuji? To educate our mind.
Yes,
Because
we have to feed knowledge of Krishna. We have to read scriptures. We have to hear from scriptures. We have to speak Krishna Katha to others. So we should make it a habit actually, like you read some books, some stories, small story of Krishna or Lord Ramachandra, any avatar of Lord. You read small story of any of these avatars, and then next time when you meet a person, either one of your relatives or one of your friends or somebody from this group itself. So when you see another person next time, you can share what you have learned. For
but
example,
understanding is not coming, Prabhuji. Even though I'm reading the books because now you are imparting the knowledge to us, that little bit we come to know. But by reading the books also, we have to feel like even Bhagavad Gita also, I feel like instead of reading is also primary thing, but before reading, understanding, observing, and living with it, I feel means like getting correct knowledge means I'm not getting it by reading, I'm not absorbing the things, Prabhuji. That is the factor that makes not make means like encourage me, motivate me to read it. That feeling is not coming by reading.
yeah, it's a gradual progress.
Gradual
It's
process.
a gradual progress, but you have to make it a habit of hearing some lecture, or you have to make it a habit of reading Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Srimad Bhagavatam every day, every single day, even if it is for 5 minutes. I mean, the good practice is to read 1 hour every day. If that is not possible, at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever is possible, you must read. Make it a habit to read every single day. Anything that you do consistently every single day, that's what stays with you.
Thanks, Prabhuji. Yeah.
So if somebody, if somebody is working out in the gym every single day, it's very easy for them. In the beginning, on day one, it's very difficult. Day 2, slightly better. Day 3, much better. And after 1 month, much easier. After 6 months, it becomes your second nature to go to the gym and working out in the gym. It becomes your second nature. Nobody have to push you, nobody have to force you. It becomes second nature. Similarly, in the beginning, when you are asked to read books, first of all, we don't understand many things. Still, we should not be discouraged. You keep reading, keep reading, keep reading, keep hearing, keep sharing with others. And slowly, in about 6 months to 1 year from now, you will see drastic difference. You will see drastic difference.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So, for example, a small story. Okay. Have you all heard of Gunja Mala that Krishna wears? Have you heard of this word?
No, Prabhuji.
Gunja Mala.
No.
So,
No,
Mala is
Prabhuji.
garland. Gunja Mala means red berries, some kind of berries, like we have blueberries, strawberries. Gunja berries are some kind of berries. So it's a garland. Gunja Mala means it's a mala made up of those gunja berries. And just like how Krishna has Vaijayanti Mala we hear from kirtans and some songs. It's a very special garland. Similarly, Gunja Mala is also a very special garland. Now, there is a story how Krishna got Gunja Mala in the very first place. So one day, when Radharani and his and her friends, the Ashtasakis, they were making some garlands, pearl garlands. For Krishna only. They were making garlands for Krishna only. This was in the spiritual world, okay? They were making pearl garlands for Krishna. Now Krishna asked, okay, you are making a pearl garland for me, which is very nice, but can you also make pearl garlands for all of my cows? Then Radharani said, oh, you have unlimited number of cows. Now we don't have so many pearls. And we cannot make pearl garlands for all of your, cows. Then Krishna says, are there any trees that grow pearls? I mean, Krishna knows everything, but he's acting as an innocent child here and asking Radharani, are there any trees that can give us pearls, so that I can go and get the pearls from the trees and you can make garlands for my cows? And then Radharani and all the Ashtasakis, they laugh at Krishna. Don't you even know that pearls don't come from trees, but they come from, seashells? Then Krishna, what he does is he takes some pearls from Radharani and then he buries them in the ground with an intention to grow a tree of pearls. Just like how somebody put some mango seeds into the ground and then they water it, nurture it, and then in about 6 months, you'll have a nice tree of mangoes. So Krishna takes some pearls from Radharani and puts them and sows in the ground, and then he starts nurturing what he has sown with water, with milk, with yogurt, and so on. And then in few months, there will be a nice tree, and to everyone's surprise, the tree starts giving pearls. Everybody, Radharani and Ashtasakis, they start seeing pearls growing on the trees. Just like how mangoes grow on the trees, they start seeing pearls on the trees. Now Krishna takes the pearls from all the trees, and makes nice garlands and gives to the cows. Now Radharani, looking at this, she becomes curious. How could Krishna even do that? How could Krishna get pearls from trees? That's impossible. Let me also try that. And then Radharani also buries some pearls in the ground, and then she also starts watering, and pouring some milk, yogurt, everything, thinking that it will also give a tree of pearls, just like how Krishna got it. And then, to Radharani's shock, in about few months there will be a tree, but instead of pearls there will be some berries, red color berries. And then Krishna, looking at these berries, he laughs at Radharani. He ridicules Radharani, saying that, hey, look at you, what you have done now. You are trying to get pearls. You are trying to imitate me to get pearls, but now you got these useless berries. Radharani feels little upset. Now to cool her off, Krishna says, okay, because you have grown this tree with your hands, and you have these berries, why don't you make a garland with these berries and offer it to me? I will accept it. And then Radharani makes a nice garland of those red berries called gunja. Those red berries are called gunja. So she makes a mala out of those gunjas and offers it to Krishna. And Krishna feels very happy with that gunja mala. And that's how Krishna got gunja mala very first time. And Krishna loves that gunja mala like a very special garland, just like Vaijayanti mala. So from then onwards, so many so many temples, wherever the gunja berries are available. Gunja berries are mostly available in the forests, okay, especially in Vrindavan and other forests. Gunja berries are available. So if gunja berries are not available, something that looks like gunja berries they can use to make gunja mala and offer to Krishna. So a small story like this, when you share with others, they'll feel happy about it. They'll feel satisfied. Or you share butter stealing stories of Krishna, how Krishna, Balaram, and his friends Madhu Mangala and other friends, how they stole butter from different homes of gopis. When you share these stories, they'll feel happy about it. So you share something and you ask others also to share something with you. So it's a mutual exchange of nice Krishna Katha. So if we make it a habit of reading and sharing with others, then we'll feel satisfied. We'll become Atmaram. We don't need anything else. Otherwise, we'll be hankering, the mind will be hankering to get happiness from sense objects. Dhiyayato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bijayate. And then Krodat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vibramaha, smriti bramshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. So what are the 8 steps in the fall down? Contemplation. From contemplation, attachment.
Lust.
And then lust. Yeah.
Then delusion.
And then anger.
Anger.
Krodha.
If lust is not fulfilled, then anger. That's the 4th one. and from anger, loss of memory,
Yes.
and then from anger, delusion, samoha.
Yeah. Delish.
Delusion means confusion, basically. You don't know what to do. And from delusion, loss of memory, smriti bramshad. And from loss of memory, loss of intelligence. And from loss of intelligence, fall down, destruction. Okay, so these are the 8 steps in the process of falling down. Now 2.63 or 64, right? 64. So what we will do is, we will read the translation of these shlokas, because now in the next few shlokas, Krishna repeats the same thing, basically. Sense control, mind control, and the most important thing to remember is this 8-step process of fall down, starting from contemplation. Okay? So 2.64, Ragadvesha vimuktais vishayan indriyaischcharan atmavaishair videyatma prasadam adhigacchati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principle of freedom can attain the complete mercy of the Lord. 2.65, Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopa prasanna chetaso hyasu buddhi paryavatishtate. For one thus fixed in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. See, in the previous section, Krishna described the process of fall down. Now he is explaining the process of coming back or going higher, progressing higher. The process of progressing higher is to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Now here, one important point to discuss, right? See, for example, if you look at this translation, for one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. So, when we perform bhakti, when we are progressing, in this process of bhakti, as we start performing devotional service, we will still continue having these miseries. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, and the threefold miseries. Problems created by other living entities, problems created by our own mind, problems created by natural calamities like tsunamis, earthquakes. They will continue happen. It's not like, Jyoti is going to temple and she is chanting every day, and Annapurna, she is chanting every day in the morning, 4:30. There will not be any, earthquakes, or there will not be any tsunamis in the world. There will be. Even when we are practicing this process of Krishna consciousness, there will be calamities, but we will not be disturbed. That's the difference. The problems will continue to exist, but we will not be disturbed. Okay, 2.66. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukam. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Okay, one second. Let me turn on the light. It's getting dark here. Okay. So in 2.66, Krishna is saying, one who is not connected with Supreme can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So basically, Krishna is repeating the same thing, that unless we become fixed in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of happiness. Okay? 2.67 Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nuvidiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavam ivambasi. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Remember, we discussed the small story of parrots. The parrots are very good at speaking. They are very good at repeating whatever is being said. So we all, learned from that story of parrots how parrots simply kept on repeating the mantra, Shikari aayega, jal bichayega, dana dalega, faso mat. The sage gives that mantra to the parrots not to get trapped in the net of a hunter. So they keep repeating this mantra, Shikari aayega, jal bichayega, dana dalega, faso mat. And then as they are flying in the sky, a hunter comes and throws the net and some grains. The birds keep repeating that mantra and then they get trapped because they don't understand that mantra. They are simply repeating because they are good at speech. So similarly, even if one of the senses is not controlled, so we have 6 senses, including mind, there are 6 senses. Let's say we control our mind, we control and remaining 4 senses, but one of the senses is not controlled. Still, that one sense is enough for the complete fall down. Just like in this Sloka 2.67, Krishna says, as a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Okay, next Shloka 2.68. Tasmadyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashah indriyanindriyartebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. Therefore, O mighty armed one, whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Now, after describing so much about the qualities of a sthita prajna person, now here Krishna is saying, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. Krishna is saying such a person is called a sthita prajna. 2.69 Yanisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisha pashyato mune. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for introspective sage. That means here, Krishna is talking about people of good qualities and bad qualities. People who have bad qualities or bad habits of sense control, what do? They sleep very late and they wake up very late, and everything that they do during the day also is they do very lethargic, lazy, morose. There's no enthusiasm in what they're doing. Because there's no regulation at all. There's no regulation in sleeping, there's no regulation in eating, there's no regulation in entertainment, there's no regulation in day-to-day activities. So what is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. That means self-controlled people, what time do they wake up? They wake up early in the morning. Like how our Annapurna, every day she wakes up at 4 o'clock or 4:30 and then she chants 16 rounds. And that is the time for the people who have bad qualities to actually sleep. The time when self-controlled people are awakening, that is the time for the bad people to sleep actually. And the time of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective stage. And when do the people with bad qualities or bad habits sleep? They sleep very late. Sorry. When do the people of bad qualities or bad habits wake up? They wake up very late. And by that time, a self-controlled person or a introspective sage, he has already finished half of his day in performing so many devotional services. So basically Krishna is talking about two classes of men here. People who are able to control senses with some regulation and people who are not able to control. What's the difference between them? So Prabhupada explains in the details. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance or self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic men. Okay, so basically the lesson to learn from the previous Sloka 2.69 is to regulate our day-to-day activities. Wake up early, sleep early, eat limited food. Entertainment also. You can do entertainment, but in a very limited fashion. Everything in a moderate fashion. Okay, so 2.70. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti advat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti nakamakami. Okay, somebody can read the translation and purport. So, Annapurna, are you still there? Can you read the translation?
నేను చదువుతానండి.
Kalpana garu చదవండి. Yeah.
A person who is not disturbed by the Oh my God.
Incessant. Incessant.
Incessant flow of our desires. Oh, sorry, end of condition. Sorry. The enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Purport. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during rainy season, being filled with much more water, but the ocean remains the same steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna conscious. As long as one as the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the water of the rivers, the flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities, but is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense of gratification. That is the proof of Krishna conscious man, one who has one who has lost all inclinations
Inclinations.
for material sense of gratification. Although the desires are present, because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruitive workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna conscious is oh, Krishna conscious is happy in the service of the Lord, and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, de- he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires, and therefore they are in perfect peace.
Yeah. So here, basically, Krishna is saying that just like an ocean, when there is a big ocean, and you take a bucket of water and pour into the ocean is not disturbed because the ocean is so deep inside. Similarly, when we have our consciousness as deep as an ocean, when we have our consciousness very strong, then even when there are desires for sense gratification coming like small amount of water, the ocean is not disturbed. Similarly, we are not disturbed when the desires are coming. we are not disturbed. Because the desires keep coming. Even the desires will come even for the exalted devotees also. Even for the acharyas, the desires and thoughts will come. But they are not disturbed by those thoughts. Just like an ocean is not disturbed by small amount of water. That's why we have to, every day we have to do this sadhana to strengthen our consciousness, to make our consciousness very strong, very deep as an ocean. Then only we will not be disturbed. Okay, next shloka we'll finish in next 5 minutes, 2.71 and 72. Vihaya kam 2.71. Vihaya kaman yasarvan pumams charati nishpruhaha nirmamo nirahankara sashantim adhigacchati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. So here Krishna is talking about material sense gratification. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. So the root cause of all the problems or the disturbances, why we are not peaceful, why we are not happy, is we want to control things. We want to control things. We want to be the enjoyer. We want to be the controller. That's when all the problems will happen. But the moment we realize that I am not the controller, I am not the enjoyer, Krishna is the controller, he is the enjoyer, then we can give up desires for sense gratification. So when we satisfy the senses of Krishna, Krishna will satisfy our senses. Okay? Now the last shloka of this chapter, 2.72. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati stitvasyam antakalepi brahma nirvanam richati. That is the way of spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So here in the last shloka, Krishna is saying that that is the way of spiritual and godly life. Means so far he has described what is the way of life. When you ask somebody what is Bhagavad Gita, right? They say Bhagavad Gita is a life manual, or it teaches the way of life. So this is what Krishna has described so far, the way of life. That is the way of spiritual and godly life. Now when we learn this spiritual way of life, we don't have to change anything. We don't have to change our job. We don't have to change our place. We can continue doing whatever we are doing, but we just have to change the way of our lifestyle. What we eat, where we go, where we spend our time, what we hear, what we see. This is what we have to change. This is nothing but the way of life, the lifestyle basically. So Krishna has been teaching the lifestyle in the previous shloka. In chapter 2, he started speaking from 2.7 onwards. From shloka 7 onwards until this 72 shloka, In between, Arjuna spoke one shloka, asking questions, what are the qualities of Sthita Prajna person? So in all the 60 plus shlokas, Krishna has described about lifestyle, the spiritual lifestyle. So I recommend everyone to read the purports of all these shlokas. We have not read purports for few shlokas, but please read those purports. That will at least, inspire you to develop a habit of reading. Now consider this as homework and read the purports, so that you will at least make some habit of reading. Okay. So yes, we successfully finished chapter 2. The goal is not just to finish for the sake of finishing, but most of these shlokas, they have the repeated concept, right? Krishna tells the same thing again and again. And Prabhupada also in the purports repeats the same thing over and over again. Why they are repeating? They are repeating the same point over and over again to establish the point very nicely, to say the point very firmly, to emphasize the importance of sense control. Okay? If this process of sense control is given in one shloka, if Krishna tells this in one shloka, then we may not take it. But as we keep on reading, we hear the same thing again and again, and Prabhupada is also elaborating in the same style again and again in every purport. Then we take it seriously. They are repeating it multiple times. They are telling it so many times. Just like how a parent, even after telling the child so many times, the child will not listen. Now the parent will start thinking, will start banging his head. What do I do now? My child is not listening. I'm telling 1,000 times, but the child is not listening. Now you can imagine, Krishna's position. Krishna must be, doing the same thing. He must be feeling very sad. I'm telling this good lifestyle, the spiritual lifestyle, so many times to my children, but they are not listening. So let's all take up this process very seriously by cultivating a habit of reading. Okay? So if you cultivate this habit of reading, you will become a good philosopher. First of all, you will become satisfied by yourself. You don't need anything externally to get happiness, and you are not disturbed. You will see, you will become a very calm and peaceful person. You start reading from today onwards. In the next 1 year, it is guaranteed you will become a very calm and peaceful person. Okay? So having said that, we'll conclude the call here. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll continue next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.